Hello, everyone, and welcome to Empowered Souls, a new episode today all about reclaiming your abundance. So, for that, I have a very special guest with me today, Helen Millar. Helen, welcome to Empowered Souls.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
So, we're going to be talking a bit about how to reclaim our abundance, especially in these times of fear in the mainstream media, cost of living crisis. Lots of people are struggling, feeling abundant, making money. So we're going to be talking, and Helen is going to give us some practical advice. She's very good on this topic, and we're going to be talking about how to heal our relationship with money, because a lot of it comes to the beliefs we have, right? So we're going to be talking about these things. Before we start, let me introduce Helen. Helen's thing is helping people shift from head to heart living. And she's going to be talking a bit more about this in a minute. So she turned her own life around from self-sabotage to self-celebration. And she created Heart Healer to share what helped her not only to stay on the planet, but to learn to really thrive here. She's a speaker, coach, award-winning actress, writer, entrepreneur, weaver of conscious community, and guide to exploring the universe magic. And since 2009, she's worked with international business leaders, specializing in emotional intelligence and supporting people to turn their lives around by pivoting from head to heart-centered living. So, Helen, first of all, I would like you to tell us more about that shift from head to heart center living. So tell us about that and what you do.
It's all from personal experience, my work really, and I was deeply unhappy, had multiple suicide attempts when I was younger for all sorts of reasons. And I had no framework, faith, understanding of spirituality, of religion, of anything that could help me, healing in any shape or form that could help me. And so I was all in my head. And the thing about our head is and our thoughts, they're very loud, they're very powerful. I believe that my thoughts were me. And I lived with the programs, the traumas, the thoughts and things that I'd heard my parents say I had adopted as mine or rebelled against, or I didn't realize that I was living as this sponge without knowing how to really formulate what I truly believed beyond the trauma-informed self. And when I started my healing journey and had extraordinary experiences that have happened over the last 10, 11 years, the medicine I found is located in the heart. And I believe that's our connection to our deepest wisdom, truth, power, ability to manifest, ability to change and turn our lives around. It's what I would say is where our connection to God, the soul, source, the one, whatever your language is around that exists. And like, if you look at the work of the Heart Math Institute, or people who are really trying to understand the physics or quantum physics and the science around this, for those people who like to hear about the scientific reality as well, 5,000 times more pieces of information are going from your heart to your head than the other way around. And so the head is great for getting bills paid, or filing information, or winning pub quizzes, but it's not great at directing your life and making huge choices. That's the heart. The heart should, I believe, be our master, and the head should be our servant.
Yeah, that's great. It's funny because I've been in a course the last 5 days about rewriting our story, rewriting our past. How can we transform those trauma-informed parts of ourselves and rewrite the story into something more empowering, right? And the key is about bringing whatever that new belief is, whatever that new story is, to the heart. And because of the huge electromagnetic field that the heart sends, so when we send a message from the heart, it's like that's how we connect with God, with the universe. So yeah, totally agree with that. So tell us a bit more about how would this apply to being more abundant, and and for life to flow, because we're going to talk about the relationship with money, but abundance could be abundance of love, could be abundance of friends, experiences. So tell us a bit more how living more from the heart help us be more abundant.
So it's really what you've just shared, which is so true, that this, and look at the work of Joe Dispenza or a whole lot of people now, this magnetic field, this broadcasting signal that we have in the heart, when we come from there in terms of how we create and how we feel gratitude for what we already have, and all of those different vibrational signals that we can beam out, we can use that. We get really good and we can heal loads of areas of our life. But when it often comes to money, we shoot back up into the head. We have so many fearful programs around what it means to have money, what it means if you've had it or you've lost it, very different stories around what it means to be a woman with money or a man with money, what a man without money is, what women without money is, like as women, like our history of not even having ownership of our money. We marry, it becomes the man's, inheritance passing down through the male line, and women being seen as objects. And then you can look at the paradigm of the stories that we have about a man's financial earning capabilities are like really correlate to his masculinity. What does it mean if she earns more than him? Like all of these programs we have, and they stem right back to when we were in the fields, and the majority of people would be in the fields, like pulling the potatoes or picking the corn or whatever it might be. And then there'd be one or two people in the big house living off this, hard days work and honest days pay. Like good people are poor, bad people are rich. And that has trickled down and infiltrated our perception of what money is. But especially since we're no longer on the gold reserve, which means that money is made up. The whole concept of money is a paradigm, is a myth that we are all collectively working with. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. Money is an energy field, like paper slips of cash, like it's an IOU. Digital numbers in a bank are moved around. But essentially, we are all living for free and just swapping things. Or I'm letting you, come to my yoga class, or, have my therapeutic skills or whatever it might be, because you're going to transfer some digital numbers into an account. And then I'm going to put those digital numbers into another account. It's all, when you get down to it, we're not swapping loaves of bread for bananas.
Yeah.
Which is so handy. Like money is really handy because I don't necessarily want bananas. I might want a car, or I might want a house, or I might want a white top. It doesn't correlate. And so I have a thing about swaps, which is a big thing in the spiritual community. So I'll talk about that. But essentially, when we come to money and we go into the head, we buy into the myth that it will run out, or that there isn't enough of it. But if you think about money as in love, are you worried that love is going to run out, or there isn't enough of it? But it's self-generated, it's an energy. And if we can start to shift and think about money like that, then we can start to work with it in a different way. And I can feel maybe potentially people thinking about, well, you become greedy, or you're going to become like this, like terrible megalomaniac or consumerist. But my passion is helping people live their authentic truth. And if you're working on your consciousness and you're shifting down into your heart space, all of those want to have more than others in an unhealthy way, or going into the greed as an energy, that's in the head. That's still coming from fear. There isn't fear in the heart. So you have it, you can manifest, create lots of money, and then you can help other people if you're a conscious creator. I mean, we've got people who aren't particularly, I would say, necessarily working in the way that is going to help this planet and the people on it, with loads of money. You can look at people who own huge corporations and household names, and what they're choosing to do with it. And it's like, well, if we had people with a different level of consciousness or awareness working for God, love, the light, whatever your language is, like what difference and rate of change we can create on this planet. And so it really is lies within us and our programs around how we've made money, this mythical thing that doesn't really exist, bad when we all need it. And it is a self-sabotaging conversation that we're having internally, where we're making ourselves feel virtuous for not having enough, scrimping and saving and getting a kick out of that, diverting so much energy in how to save money rather than create money, and feeling bad and guilty for wanting more. And I help address that in the work I do.
Yeah, and I think you mentioned is the beliefs is what we make of money, right? You can make it a really bad thing, or you could make it a wonderful thing. You do amazing work, you get rewarded in that way. You can use it to support other business, to live a comfortable life, to invest in your healing, to buy beautiful food, right? So it's what we make out of it, and we're battling not only our individual beliefs about money based on maybe what our family thought about money, maybe about the experiences we've had, collective beliefs about money. Oh, rich people are bad. Ancestral beliefs that we have inherited, like you were saying, when we were working in the fields. Like we are. We are battling like different sources of beliefs, and I'm sure some people are thinking, well, Helen, but you have a very successful business, so it's easy for you to say now that money is just numbers in a screen. But I know you've done a lot of work around your relationship with money, right? So tell us a bit more about that. I'm sure our listeners will love to hear about that.
This is where I embarrass myself. So I didn't grow up. I mean, anybody really who grows up in the West to a degree, there are lots of people who are living under the poverty line, but having spent time in Africa and different places on the planet where there's a different level of poverty that we don't necessarily see here. I didn't grow up with lots of money. I grew up in a 2 up, 2 down with a working class mother and a middle class father, but both who'd lost the money when he was younger. So, or his family had. So I didn't, like, we couldn't afford to go abroad when I was little. We couldn't afford to have chicken on Sundays. We had gammon and pineapple rings because it was, I grew up on microwave meals, and the predominant caregivers, my grandparents who brought me up because my parents worked long hours, would pick the cigarette butts that my parents had put in the bin out of the kitchen bin in front of me to pull out the tiny bit of tobacco at the end, so they couldn't afford tobacco. So I witnessed all this sort of levels of poverty. My great grandmother had killed herself in the oven, and then my grandmother, who spent a long time raising me, had grown up in an orphanage in care, looking after by nuns, and was malnourished and had huge amounts of poverty, not being able to pay the bills with 3 kids, two of whom were disabled. So like that was really around my upbringing. And my parents, how they spoke to me about money, literally said, good people don't earn enough because they look after people for a living, and basically bad people chase money because they work with technology. It's like, it was literally like that. That was
what a strong statement, right?
It was such a strong statement. And also I was told repeatedly, because I was all I wanted to do was act. I wanted to tell stories to change the world. I was passionate beyond like fathomability about acting. It's the only time I felt safe or alive, like happy on the planet. Which I can talk about, it's a whole different conversation. But I was told, you will never get a mortgage, repeatedly throughout my life. And they weren't going to financially help me change that there was no financial education. So I was deeply embroiled unconsciously in my 20s, and I left home when I was 15. And so I'd always worked, but I did minimum wage jobs that I hated in order to be available for auditions. As an actor, you could earn some okay money, but you might not then work again for another 6 months or month, or you never knew where the next paycheck was. And I never had any financial stability. So I was petrified of spending money. I didn't have a holiday for 6 years. Like, I was so tight. It's ridiculous. I'd go around, I'd waste hours like working out what time certain supermarkets reduce their food. I'd only ever buy stuff with yellow sticker. I only bought clothes in the sale from charity shops. Like I was a real like coupon hustler. I lived in, flat shares all my life. I cycled everywhere to save on transport. And I couldn't see, I felt like I had all this potential, and I was just furious with everything that I was doing, because like it wasn't fair. It wasn't fair. Like, when's the break coming? And I wasn't raised with like, you marry a man for money, but I know some women are. Like I was also permanently single because I was so angry all the time. So that wasn't going to happen anytime soon. And I never, yeah. So I had that going on, but at the same time, in my 20s and 30s, I was working. Well, I was working on myself from my late 20s, but in my 20s, I won an award as an actor that put me into a certain prominence, and somebody who worked for a big credit card company, a world famous one, thought I would be really good at training the senior leadership team in communication skills from my acting background. And so I suddenly found myself around multimillionaires who were hugely successful, and I think they liked me because I didn't care, because they weren't in the arts, they weren't gonna, I wasn't interested in money, thought it was bad, thought they were all like nasty people. I didn't. When I was face to face with them, I loved the work because I love humans, but I had all these like gripes about the industry and corporate work. So I was in there teaching them to communicate differently, which then expanded as my consciousness expanded and my healing grew into emotional intelligence work. But I was working with all these people who had loads of money and all this like free food that would constantly be brought into the room. And my experience, like rehearsal rooms, actors are always hungry and broke. It's such a different world. And so I lived in this sort of duality as I my working life. And so it wasn't until I'd done so much work in my life, I'd healed so many areas like self-hatred, self-sabotage, all these things, eating disorders, addictions, like the whole gamut, apart from money. And it wasn't until I got really serious about focusing on changing and healing my finances with somebody who was on a spiritual path and spiritually aware. I couldn't get on with all these like bright pink suits, women with a blow dry, 6 figures in 6 weeks thing. Like that repulsed me.
Yeah.
But working really deeply in a soulful, prayerful, like way, which I now call in my work, like God's in the room, like you're not doing it on your own. Like this is a prayer. This is your birthright. Like, that I was able to massively transform my relationship with money, my relationship with myself, my self-worth, how I work in the world, and get much more financial acumen, and then help support other people do that. And my work is around transformation, but so many people come to me where money is a block. So I've then taught what I've learned.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that, because I know that and that's a great example of, you don't need to come from a rich background to be wealthy and to be abundant and to be successful. It's all about our beliefs and what we are in resonance with. So because I know that a lot of people, especially these days, because we are bombarded by all this, fear, everything, all prices are going up, and we're constantly bombarded by believing that there is not enough for everyone. This scarcity mindset that is of interest for other people, but that's for another episode, maybe. But for people who are really struggling and maybe identifying in that situation, what advice could you give them? Like what shifted for you? What key lessons you learned that you could share with them?
So the first thing is, there's a few, but firstly, to get really clear about your mindset. And there seems to be 2 ways that we get out of balance with money. And also this shows up again, like you might have read the book Attached, about how we relate in relationships, whether they're avoidant or anxious or a mix of the 2. Like we're basically the same with money, or how we relate with food, whether we're not feeding ourselves enough or we're eating too much. Like this balance where we get into a space of fear And then we either hoard it. So this is why you get multimillionaires, billionaires who never feel like they've got enough money. They don't feel rich enough.
Yeah.
Right? They don't, because essentially money is never going to make you happy, but it can massively help.
Yeah.
It can massively help your life in many ways.
Yeah.
So only healing is going to allow for that. So where we get out of balance, we get into a place where we feel like we've never got enough. So you don't ever spend it. This is where I was, like, no matter how much was in my bank account, whether it was a penny, I was in the red or I was massively in the green, I felt poor, I felt broke. I wanted to know the price of everything. Oh, you're going on holiday. How much were the flights? Oh, that was a lot. You know, like judging. Oh, she's wearing such and such clothing. Like, you know, I was just seeing pound signs and being resentful, right? Irony was that I lived on Hatton Garden for a while, which is the Diamond Street shop in London. Like, and I was living in this like tiny little flat share in a bunk bed. And every day I'd walk past billions of pounds worth of diamonds and resent everybody in the shop. But it's
bad people.
right, exactly. And it's seeing things that aren't yours or you can't have them, rather than I could have that, but I'm choosing, or like I could choose to buy that £300 top, but I'm choosing to spend that on a ceremony or on therapy or whatever it might be. Or I see these people with, you know, a £50,000 car, and there's no resentment because that's available to me at some point in my life, depending on choices I make, but it's not there right now. But oh, won't it be nice when I have that money to drive it? When you have that money, you might not want that car. You might want to set up a healing temple or something. Do you know what I mean? But you might want that car. There's nothing wrong with desire. It's part of the human condition. But as we work on ourselves, what we desire changes. So being really aware whether you're in fear and contraction around money and you just want it all and don't want to spend any, or the other way that we get out of balance, which is this anxious in relationships, this anxious attachment, which is like, don't leave me, text me, why hasn't he called, all of that stuff. Or we get into a place where we can't handle it. So you get an inheritance, or you get a pay rise, or you're the person taking everybody out for dinner, or oh, I've just inherited this, I'm going to take all my friends on holiday. And then suddenly, or you win the lottery. There's these studies that within 7 years, most people are back to the same financial situation they were in before they won the lottery.
Yeah.
Because money is an energy. And if we haven't worked on strengthening our self-worth and our energetic field to hold that energy, we keep pushing it away. Like, you can't hold the food, you make yourself sick. Like, it's this sense that we can't contain the fullness of, or the responsibility of, whether we see that as power or money or energy in some shape or form. You can look at that in terms of sexual language as well, but it's often all the same wounding. It plays out in our life in different ways. And so it's becoming, first of all, aware whether your mind is more contractive or more repulsive in terms of money, and then working out how you can play games with yourself about how you can come much more into balance with money being like it's cyclical, right? Like, we have the seasons, but in autumn, the tree isn't freaking out that the leaves are falling. And in summer, it's not going, I can't let any apples go, right? Like, money is going to come and go throughout your life. And the thing about being on somebody else's payroll is that people can feel it's safe, but it also can be a trap, because you get into this thing that it's the same each month, or it very slowly goes up. And actually, having always been self-employed, there's been a lot of teaching of my muscles of getting okay with how, like, massively abundant months and then leaner months, but knowing that that doesn't mean that it's just going to do that, or it's just going to do that. And in the same way that our health changes, or as women, our cycle changes, our moods change. It's the same of understanding money as an energy. And that would be my first tip. The second tip for, like, looking at where you are with money is getting into gratitude. Now, I know this is like drummed around, but gratitude, I've this was a big game changer for me, because I do like these 21-day challenges, or I do my like 5 things before bed gratitude journal, but I wasn't feeling the energy, like embodied energy of being grateful.
Mm.
I was doing it with the sense of, I'm doing this so I can get more money.
Yeah.
Right? Like lines like, I must not pull so and so's bunches. Like, I'm grateful for the fact I've got a duvet. Do you know, like that was the energy I was doing all those things with. Whereas what shifted for me is, and where my prayer is twice a day, is like, before, often when people feel called to pray in whichever way that is for you, to ask for something from universe, God, source, it's from like, oh, I feel like I'm in lack, so I'm asking externally for it. Whereas it's a bit like going up to somebody and going, I don't have enough self-love, love me. Like, it's not attractive. So gratitude is that space of having more than enough, of really getting into a place where you can weep for your life, for your health, that you have eyes, hair, arms, that you woke up in a dry environment, that you've got enough food in the fridge, and if you haven't got enough food in the fridge, that you have got a body that can sustain you for periods of time, like with fasting or with hunger, that you have that you're a soul in a human body. So isn't this body incredible that's still functioning without enough food? Like, there's always more levels of depth we can go to with gratitude. It's like, I want sourdough and I've got Aldi white bread. Well, how can you have gratitude for the people who pulls the corn out of the fields, the people who milled it, the people who create the technology to mill the factory, who drove the vans, who stacked the shelves, so that you can sustain yourself today, even if it doesn't have the nutritional content that you aspire to. Like, we can have our mind blown with what we have, just like looking at the stuff that's on my desk, like the amount of pens I've got, or I've got flowers, like, you know what I mean? Like, we can, wherever you are, there's gratitude to be found. And then when you're in that frequency and then you pray, that is when you're in the heart and the electric field is going.
Yeah.
Rather than, I haven't got enough, give me, please.
I totally agree with gratitude. For me, every time I give a talk, or if they ask me one thing, to do that would have the biggest impact, I always say gratitude. It's such a high vibration emotion. It instantly shifts your mood. If you can really, like you say, but really not like, yeah, thank you for another day of working hard and having I'm sorry, but thank you anyway. If you really connect with the energy of gratitude, it creates an instant shift in your mood, and you're saying thank you, and the universe is like, oh, okay, there's space for more, right? So you start to receive more. It's been a game changer for me as well. And you've been talking about prayer and trusting, right? And I would like to cover the topic of spirituality and money. And I know here there's lots of probably things that we could discuss, but in particular, I know a lot of people who listen to this podcast are people on a spiritual journey, right? And a lot of them might be therapists or artists, doing something, doing work that is not just for money. It's because they have a mission, they have a purpose, right? And here is where I see this big conflict, that if you are spiritual and if you're doing work that helps others, you can be rich. Money is not good. Charging is bad, right? And I have experienced this. For example, I was before I started my business as a coach and healer, I was working in the banking industry, making a lot of money, very successful. I had been programmed, literally. If you go to uni, you will have a good job in a big company. You're going to make a lot of money. You're going to be super successful. I was literally programmed for that. There I went, easy peasy. I kept getting promotions. great opportunities. Now, when I changed my career and I decided to work for myself, then I had to battle all these beliefs. Oh, wait, your program is to be a good girl and have a job in a good in a big company, not to work for yourself, not to do all this job, right? Not to run your own business, not to do this spiritual work or therapeutic work, whatever you want to call it. So I had to battle a lot of that. And it was not only about the beliefs about working on myself, but also there was that, oh, but if I'm here to help people, if I'm following my purpose, charging feels weird. It feels bad. And I know a lot of people will resonate with this. And so I would love to hear your thoughts about being spiritual, having a spiritual business, working on your purpose, doing something you love, helping others, and having that balance. That means I charge for the work I do, all my experience, all the healing I've done, the qualifications, that, whatever, you value that, and you're charging because it has value. So tell us about how to find that balance.
So it's really deep, lots of things popping in as you were sharing this. So first of all, the root is self-worth, because if you really, really value yourself, you're able to really, really value other people, and you feel comfortable pricing yourself in a certain way. That's going to be different for everybody. I see people going out of balance and going, I should be charging X amount, thousands, blah, 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 blah. But I say, well, have you ever invested that amount? No. So why should if you haven't experienced that energy field in your own leap, how can you ask other people for that price? So that's one end of the extreme. So thinking about it as a muscle, it's about building your worth, because if you're asking people to value you at that price, you need to be able to value yourself and invest at that level. And I personally never ask people to invest with me like 5 times less than I'm investing. So I need to feel really confident that I can return value for the money I'm asking people to invest in me with. Because essentially, investing in yourself, but that needs to feel like a safe transaction.
Yeah.
So I feel very grounded in the numbers that I share. They've changed massively over time, but that's changed and reflected with how I've invested in myself and the work and results I'm capable of getting. What money does is it gets people's attention. If something's free, people don't value it.
Totally agree.
So there is also a magic and an alchemy when something is a stretch for you. This isn't that this doesn't apply to like necessarily clothing or cars or blah, blah, blah. It can do, but it's not a blanket rule. But when you are working on transformation, there is something about, if it comes from your heart, if you feel the click, not if you feel like conned or you've been followed up in some Instagram algorithm with great spiel, you've bought like a 70-pound piece of plastic from China that doesn't actually do anything. Do you know what I mean? Like, but if you really feel a connection and you want to work with somebody or invest in your business in a certain way, there's some, like, say you want to get a loan or something like that, like there's going to be a point if it's I could pay it back tomorrow, I've got that money in the bank. But if there's like, I really want to do it, it feels so aligned, but that's scary. What that is you tapping into the future self that is nailing and able to pay that back and living at that frequency, and you're bringing your current timeline up to there. So if nobody ever gives you the opportunity to do that leap, it takes a really long time to get there. But if you've got someone great who can help you speed up and learn from all the mistakes they've made, a guide and mentor, then if that person isn't charging, how are they funding themselves? They have to do other things that take their time, energy, and focus away, which depletes their ability to be completely present and great there. And so if you've got kids or you're caring or you've got other commitments, or you want to do pro bono work as well, you need to work backwards. Like, how much do you need to earn? And that's then how much you need to charge in order that you can carry on helping people. Because if you're burning out,
Yeah.
the world doesn't need more burnt out, strung out, broke yoga teachers.
Yeah.
That's not to say you can't do things for free. You can't do podcasts and give out information and help people and support people. But if at some level you're not getting your needs met, and you're not able to save, and you're not able to invest, and you're not able to create sustainability for yourself, then you're only going to be able to help people so far.
Yeah.
And that leap comes down to doing more work on yourself and self-love and self-value, and then not necessarily moving at a pace that is beyond your ability to integrate what you're learning and what you're growing, which is why I have a big gap between how I invest in myself and how I charge. But that you can grow and change over time. But also, I will share, it's very difficult to put your prices up, and it's very easy to bring them down.
Yeah. And I think it's again, sometimes we pride ourselves in being poor, or in struggling. Everyone's struggling, so if I'm abundant, then maybe I'm a bad person, or maybe there's something wrong with it. And I hear many stories, like, all ways of justifying not doing the work we've been talking about. And I hear a lot of, oh, it's because I had a past life, and then I'm carrying this karma, and then I'm never going to be rich. And yeah, there might be an element of that, but or sometimes people who struggle with the business, and when you ask them, like people I work with, and then you ask them, so how are you putting yourself out there? How are you promoting yourself? And he's like, oh, well, yeah, not really, so there is a lot about blaming the current situation. For example, when I believe that what is needed is that inner work, about self-worth, about the beliefs we hold, about money, about being abundant, because I believe that anyone can be abundant. Anyone can have a joyful life full of resources, call it money, a house, even like love, friendships, experiences, wherever. I believe anyone can do it. There is no luck. There is no, oh, Helen is so lucky and she has a successful business. Oh, Veronica was so lucky, and she decided to quit the corporate world and do something. There's no luck. It's and that's why this episode is about reclaiming your abundance, and the podcast is about reclaiming your power, because it's everything that is something that everyone can do. It's just about, do you want it? Do you want
right? How much do you want it, and how uncomfortable are you prepared to get? It's like, if you haven't got off a sofa for a year and you want to run a marathon, you've got to start where you are. But there are going to be times where it's miserable, and it's hard, and your body hurts, and you feel like you're never going to get there. But if you persevere and you keep working on your mindset, and you keep working, and you keep putting the hours in and the change, like, money likes to move fast. Like, things can change like that. And I also it's so entwined for me. My language is God. Like, if God wills it, like, if you're inviting God into the space, if you're making it soulful, if you're keeping your understanding that, like, on some level all of this is a dream, or quantum physics, like, this is majority negative space, you can actually fit the density of the planet into a sugar cube. Like, when you get like that, it's like, that's how extraordinary things can happen. And I've had clients who've had extraordinary results, like, you won't believe, I just got this email, and then all the money, it's all just come, and I never, stuff happens when you start but you have to, with all acts of faith, to try to be more than we currently are, experiencing ourselves as, whether that be health changing or financial change or love or whatever it is. There has to be a leap of faith. You have to go up to the beautiful person in the street, or and whatever level of beauty that is, internal, external, and talk to them. If you want a relationship, you have to, you know, maybe potentially go into debt to buy the house or start the business. You have to have the faith that there is a part of you that will be capable of being more than you are. You start a university degree, you'll invest it. It's a leap of faith that you're going to be able to keep up and grow and train your brain in that way, or go to the gym and train your muscles. We're constantly making leaps of faith, but with money we can get really scared.
No, and I get it, but it's that action, that step that then can unlock, you know, like it snowballs, right? Once you make that shift, take that action. And I'm always talking about taking action and being responsible for our life and what we want to create, because these days in the media and everything, it's all about making people scared and powerless. No, we are powerful beings. Like, that power is within us, right? And especially when we are open and connected with God. I would love to touch on this topic, because you mentioned it a few times, and that trust. And so could you share with us your thoughts? Because I heard you say, I can't remember if it was in one of our conversations or one talk you gave, that you receive money through God. You know, and it's not separate. It's because a lot of people, especially if they're religious, they will be thinking, oh, but God says that you have to be, you're going to be a much better person if you're poor. But I don't believe that's the case, because if you open yourself, if you're fully connected, life just flows when you trust, when you're open, when you're connected. So tell us a bit more about that connection, about that faith.
So I grew up as an atheist. I was very anti-religion. I never really knew anything about spirituality. It wasn't on my radar. I had a massive spiritual awakening. At the same time, I met a Buddhist practice, which I went like, I couldn't fathom why I was chanting every day, but my body was compelled to do it. And then I became very deeply into the Buddhist path and became a Buddhist leader and supported a lot of people in that practice. I also went very deeply into shamanism and New Age. And at the moment, I'm studying Islam and have been for the last year, but I've also studied Christianity. I plan in the future to study Judaism. I'm fascinated by the pillar where everything aligns. And it was a big leap for me to move from talking about the universe as a Buddhist to talking about God, because I believe this was created. And for me, God is the consciousness that, like, has dreamt and created every type of dog there is, every type of butterfly, every type of human being, every type of, like, the fact our fingerprints look like tree stumps, that our lungs mirror the tree's nervous system, the fact that, like, our body can heal itself, the fact that, do you know what I mean? Like, the whole thing is a miracle.
The beauty of the creation, yeah.
And I couldn't see it when I was locked in my pain. I couldn't, I didn't have open eyes, right? And it's a constant process as we awaken or expand, of removing the veils to really see this miracle that we're living within. And that doesn't deplete from the trauma and the terror, but that's all part of it, because how could we know what love and beauty is without the horror and the ugliness? And often we're just not aware of the depth of the spectrum, and we get wounded, so we close our heart, but we can't feel that amount of pain, but we can't feel that amount of love. And so for me, my deepening into understanding that there is a creator, that I've noticed and experienced, that as I move towards being grateful for my life to that which created it, it unlocks a lot for me, huge amounts, in a way that it's not about not taking 100% responsibility for my life. I love what you said about that. But it's allowed me to go into deeper service and deeper. Also takes the pressure off me, right? Like, I'm responsible for my life to be 100% authentic in my integrity, show up, be on time, all that stuff. Brush my teeth. But the results are up to God, like, and divine timing and all of that. But the more that I understand that, the deeper my trust is, the bigger reaches, stretches, leaps, and things that are happening and changing for me.
Yeah, and that, I think that links with the head to heart connection. Instead of micromanaging the results from the head and being like, oh, but I did this free session, or I did all these articles and no one's buying my sessions, no one's booking me. Instead of micromanaging, no, you just put the love out there. You just put your work, your knowledge, whatever you are called to share, whatever your soul is calling you to share. You've done what you had to do, and then, like you said, the results, don't micromanage the results. Trust that they will come when the time is right, in the format that is right for you. Because sometimes we receive, when you allow the energy to flow, you can receive money and you can receive abundance from many different ways that you would have never thought of if you let it happen. But when we try to micromanage it, then we are more limited, right? And we kind of block that flow.
So true. And this idea that money is never coming, like, you might think, oh, money comes to me through my boss or my company. That's how money comes to me. But money is, I understand it, this energy that facilitates you to live is coming from God through your boss. But it can also come through winning the lottery, through an inheritance, through a mate saying, you know, I've got more than enough, I'll help you buy a house or have a holiday or whatever. It can come through so many ways, you know, but it also can become through a credit card, right? Like, if you can get, like, I don't think recklessly, unconsciously spending on credit cards and getting yourself in debt for, you know, excessive means is right, is helpful. Let's move out of right and wrong. It's helpful. But wanting to, like, invest in, like, a certain healing or starting a business or whatever, like, if you can get a credit card and pay it off, like, that's, for me, that's money coming to you through God as well. Like, if everything is coming through God, your ability to use and how you work with it is in your responsibility. But going, no, I'm not going to ask my brother who's got lots of money. I'm not going to ask the bank. I'm not, like, that's you blocking the how, right?
Yeah.
How is God's job, and your job is to, like, have the dream and the focus and put it out there.
Yeah, exactly. And I've noticed a big shift when I was too focused on the results and, you know, okay, I'm gonna do this promotion, I'm gonna do these videos to see if anyone signs up for my program, for example. Blocked completely. When I shift and I was like, right, this is what I'm here to do, this is what my soul is calling me to do, this is the message I want to share, or that I came here to share, this is the learning I can share with other people, that's how I can help other people. So I'm just going to keep doing it. I'm going to trust, you know, that trust that you say, I'm going to trust that the results are going to come. Oh my God, what a game changer that was. So yeah, totally agree. Yeah.
And you never know what's going to lead to what. Like, if you look at your life path, it's not been a straight road. It's been these weird stepping stones. And then I missed the bus in Mexico and ended up there. And that's when I met so-and-so. But it's the same with like with my business. Like, you know, like, the lockdowns happened and I was like, oh, this is what I've been training for 10 years. Like, I'm not scared. I can help people. I can, like, support people going through this existential crisis. That led to me doing a weekly group. That led to a membership platform. But, you know, I was rocking up. I didn't miss a week for 2.5 years, through Christmases, through travel, through whatever. And sometimes there'd be 2 people, sometimes there'd be 20, but I kept on going.
Yeah.
And that was a learning for me on so many levels. And that then facilitated a huge expansion. But that in itself wasn't massively financially profitable, but it led to things that were. And it taught me so much about being the person I can be now. So you never but it came from love. I loved my weekly sessions, midweek medicine for anybody who was there. Thank you for coming. It's a real family.
Yeah, absolutely. It's about putting it out there. And because when you're doing something, it's like, I'm going to show gratitude just because someone told me that if I'm grateful, I'm going to receive more. That's not the energy you want. I'm going to do these sessions because eventually I will get paid, or that's not the energy you want to show up with. You show up with the energy of giving, sharing your purpose, your mission, whatever that is, and let things. And then if you don't block things, I think I think our job, more than doing, is just try to not block what naturally, if we do at work, will come. That's what I come to see. If I can get myself out of the way, that's the best thing. That's one of the best things I can do. So, Helen, thank you so much for all the wisdom you've shared with us. We've covered different topics within the topic of reclaiming our abundance. But if there is one thing that you would like our listeners to take today, what would that be?
That you have all of the solutions within you. And the more that you learn to listen and trust and love yourself, the more that will become apparent and unfold for you.
Beautiful, really, really beautiful. And I totally agree. We have all we need inside. It's always there. Like, we come here with so many talents, so many gifts, inner treasures. It's there. It's there. It's there inside. And if we learn to love ourselves and not block ourselves, like, life can be beautiful. Life can truly be full of joy and love. So, great words. Thank you so much, Helen. So tell us where the audience can find you, and what's coming up for you soon. Let us know.
Oh, thank you. Well, first of all, I just want to say I've really, really loved our conversation. So thank you for this
great.
opportunity.
Me too. Thank you.
Really, really exciting. So you can get my website, hearthealer.co.uk. On Instagram, I'm at Helen Heart Healer. And I'm on Facebook, Helen the Heart Healer. And you can get me on YouTube. My YouTube channel is Helen Millar. With an AR. And what have I got coming up? So I work with clients one-to-one who want deep transformation. I have a group that is currently underway, that a program called Catalyst, that potentially if I feel called to do it, we'll be doing again next year. Love running it, so I hope that aligns. And very succinctly, actually, which is aligned with this and may be of interest to your audience, is that I have a 4-week program for people who want to start, grow, or expand their spiritual conscious business, or people who consider themselves within that language, who maybe, your business is a mechanic, but you want to do it in a conscious way, and really getting under the bonnet with marketing, with clients, with getting it off the ground, how to get the financials sorted. And so it's for people at all different levels, who, whether you're looking at scaling or beginning, it's a 4-week program and all the sessions are recorded. So there's a link below if you want to register your interest. And also I have an in-person cacao ceremony, which is how my work started way back when. And I don't do very many cacao ceremonies anymore, but it's a great way to experience me and taste what it's like to work with me. And that's on the 11th of November in Hastings.
Amazing. Thank you so much. So there's going to be links for all these platforms in the episode. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I think it's so important because people who have heart-led or soul-led business or spiritual businesses, whatever you want to call it, we don't resonate with the traditional marketing technique, like sales. And I think that's why everyone's like, oh, if that's what I do to have a business, forget it. That's not for me, right? So I think it's great that more and more people now, like you, are starting to teach about how to be successful with your business, how to be more abundant, but in a connected and in a meaningful way, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, that sounds amazing. So thank you so much, Helen, for being here. Thank you so much, beautiful souls that were listening. I hope you enjoyed that conversation. Please reach out to us if you have any questions, if you enjoyed this conversation, any other topics that you would like me to cover in future episodes. The next time that you can join me live will be on the 23rd of October. That's the Monday. I hope that's correct. At 7 p.m. I'm running a free session on how to heal the past to live your highest life. So there will be a link for that to register on that as well for anyone who wants to come on Zoom, and I will be sharing some teachings. We will do a healing meditation. So yeah, so feel free to register for that one, and I'll see you in our next episode. Have a wonderful day, everyone, and thank you, Helen, again for being here.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Take care. Bye bye.